Friends, welcome to another episode of Get to Know. My name is Enoch, and today I'm very excited. I have a legend, someone I've looked up to, a lot of you looked up to, who's laid the foundation, the groundwork of apologetics, manhood, spiritual warfare throughout his whole life. Welcome, Jesse Romero. Thanks for coming on, bud.
Thanks, brother. Good to be here, and I'm honored that you invited me. Thanks a lot, partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, I know a lot about you. My father-in-law is a big fan. He used to listen to you and Terry on the radio a lot, and thanks for coming on. I wanted to get started just straight to it. With Get to Know. Can you let everybody know what decade you were born in, bud?
I was born in 1961. A lot of good men were born that year, but a lot of bad men were born that year as well. Like Barack Obama.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. 1961. Born and raised in a suburb of Los Angeles called San Fernando. It was it's probably about 15 minutes north of downtown LA. It's like Little Mexico. And so I grew up. I thought I lived in Mexico most of my life. I think I'm not kidding. I think like at the age of like 10, I saw the first white person. I'm like, what? I never seen a white person before. I was like 10 years old. I was insulated in a barrio culture. Everybody was Mexican. All the store owners, all the cops, all the teachers, the churches I went to. So that was where I grew up. And in the city of San Fernando, back when I grew up, and I didn't realize this till later, till I became a cop. It had the highest homicide rate of any city in California back in the 70s when I was growing up.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of makes sense now because, I mean, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there was just dead bodies all over.
Wow.
You go gas up the car, go to the market. And I just thought it was normal. Then I then I got in law enforcement, in my early 20s.
Right.
And they were showing us graphs of the homicides in California. They're saying, yeah, back in the 70s, late 70s, city of San Fernando was the homicide capital of the world. I'm saying, whoa, that's when I was a teenager.
Wow. So it's like modern day Chicago in a way, huh?
Yeah.
We have another legend here. Kennedy Hall says hello, and you gave him a blurb for one of his books. What's up, Kennedy? Good to see you here, bud.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah. So Jesse, 1961. Tell us about your childhood growing up in the 60s. Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, 3 brothers, 1 sister. My parents are from Mexico. The state of Michoacan, which is deep Mexico, right next to the capital. They moved here. They moved here in their late 20s. They got married. They moved here, and then they had 5 children in California. We were all born here. I can't remember anything about the 60s. I mean, I was a kid.
Right.
I start remembering in the 70s. When I'm like 10 years old and beyond.
Sure.
I remember the 70s and 80s, but the 60s, I just had pretty much a good childhood with a stay-home mom that always tended to our needs of her 5 kids. So, I have nothing but good memories of my childhood.
Perfect. So let's talk a little about that. Tell us, what was your favorite breakfast growing up as a child? Did you have like a breakfast that you liked the most?
Yeah, menudo.
Yeah. Really? Okay.
I love menudo. Hot menudo. Cilantro.
Lemon, lime, right?
Lemon, lime.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hot menudo on a Sunday morning after mass. That's probably one of my favorite breakfasts.
Oh, you can't beat that. And did you like tamales too? What was your favorite? Was it the green or the red?
Green tamales, all right. Green tamales and eggs on top of the green tamales.
Oh, okay.
Man.
That's good stuff. What about like cereals? Did you like cereals growing up?
Yeah, I was a Captain Crunch guy. I remember Captain Crunch. Anything with sugar, Captain Crunch. What's corn? No, not corn flakes. Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes, Tiger, right?
Anything with sugar, I was addicted.
Sure. And what about like TV shows? Like growing up, what kind of cartoons did you like watching?
Batman and Robin.
Okay.
Yeah. Superman.
Yeah.
Kato and the Green Hornet. You remember that?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Bruce Lee was actually in it.
Right.
And I also liked all the John Wayne cowboy movies. Anything with John Wayne, I was like. And by the way, he died a Catholic. He came into the Catholic Church in his deathbed.
Okay. Wow. Cool. I didn't know that.
He was a Protestant, but he died a Catholic in his day. He asked for a Catholic priest. So I watched all the John Wayne movies. I was all about that. I was all into all the Bruce Lee movies.
Yeah.
I was also what else tickled my fancy there? Anything that had to do with all the cowboy movies as well. Any cowboy movies. Who was the guy? The Lone Ranger and Tonto. Yeah, that series. So yeah, I've always liked the good versus bad.
Right.
I've always liked to see that conflict, and obviously, just like the way the Bible says it's going to end, good will prevail at the end.
That's so true. That's very true. Tell us about like your childhood growing up. So you're in the 70s. You're a preteen, then you get into teenage years. Did you spend most of your time outside with your friends? Did you ride bikes? Were you more indoors? What kind of child?
It was all outdoors. I was an outdoor kid. Since I grew up in a I didn't know this till later on. Right. It was highly infested with gangs. My dad knew very early on. He put us in martial arts, and we started taking karate at the Chuck Norris Studios back in 1973. And
no way, that's cool.
Chuck Norris Studio.
Wow, that's legit.
And so, yeah, Chuck Norris used to work out with Bruce Lee. They were sparring partners, and so, I gravitated towards the martial arts, and I really liked it. I was doing baseball, football, basketball, and I was a pretty good athlete. But boy, oh boy, did I like martial arts. And I had 3 brothers, so 4 of us were very competitive.
Right.
And my dad kind of knew, since we did live in a bad area of Los Angeles, a suburb of Los Angeles, a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs. My dad knew, or say, okay, this is going to kind of temper their passions. And also, we went to mass every Sunday. My mom would pray the rosary at night. We'd be falling asleep, but we'd be there trying to pray it with her. So there was, I remember one of the things about my parents on Saturdays when I was a teenager and I wanted to go out there, they knew that if they said no to a teenager, we're going to sneak out the window. They already knew it. Right. So what they would say, we're going to negotiate. Okay, you're 16, 17, 18. We'll negotiate. You can go out, it's Saturday, but you got to go to confession first. So I said, all right, that's I'll meet them halfway.
That's a good idea.
So before I would hit the streets with my friends, I would go to confession. And I can tell you right now, Enoch, I'm telling you right now, I'd be in jail right now because these guys crossed the line, and I would just say, I said, dude, I'm not about that. I'm not about jumping people. I'm not about guns. I'm not about rifles. Don't count me in. And you know what it is? It's not that I was a holy guy.
Right.
What it was the sacramental graces. Because I tell, okay, Mom, Dad, I'll go to confession, but I'm going to go out to the movies. I'm going to go out with my friends and party. We had lowrider cars. But it was the sacramental graces that I received that would not let me go beyond a certain limit, that a lot of my friends that ended up in prison or dead, they crossed that line.
I just got some excellent parental advice from your parents. I'm going to, when my kids become teenagers, I have all boys, by the way, I have 4 boys. Okay. So that's going to be my thing for them. If you're going to go out on Saturday night, you better go to confession first. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'll meet you halfway. You can go out. You can go out with your friends or the movies or whatever. But you're going to go to confession first. And I'm going to tell you, it worked for me.
That's so cool.
I would be in jail right now.
That's so cool. So let's talk about your teenage years. So you're in what high school did you attend?
I went to this high school. George Lopez made it famous. George Lopez were the class of 79, San Fernando High School. Okay.
Okay.
Who else came out of San Fernando High School? Have you heard of Richie Valens?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the famous singer. Yeah, he's out of San Fernando High School. There's a couple of luminous. Have you heard of Danny Trejo? What's it called? Machete, the actor?
Yeah.
Okay, he's from San Fernando High School.
Is that right? Okay, well, you came out of, wow, so Richie Valens, so La Bamba, right? That's
La Bamba, La Bamba.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
And if you look at Danny Trejo, he's an A-list actor. He's made a whole bunch of movies. He's
in everything. In the 90s, Wasn't he in Desperados with
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah. I remember you talking about. Yeah, the knife guy. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So did you play sports in high school?
No, because I got involved in martial arts at about the age of 10,
Yeah.
that consumed all my time. I remember I used to during lunch and during brunch, a lot of the Mexican guys. It was a Mexican and black school, basically. Mexicans outnumbered the blacks. Very few whites there, very few. And I remember a lot of the Mexicans just wanted to hang out and just look at the girls and look cool. Blacks would go play basketball during lunch and brunch. So I said, man, I want to get a workout again. Again, I was athletically driven. So I was the only Mexican out there playing, basketball and brunch and lunch with the blacks. And they would tell me, dude, man, why don't you come up for the team? Dude, you're good. Because I could keep up with all of them because I was doing it every day and I was athletic. But the reason I didn't go out for football or basketball is because as soon as I got out of school, I had a part-time job and then off to karate practice because I was always thinking about this weekend. I got a tournament, man. I got to get ready. And so I really committed myself to martial arts for about 20 years. I mean, diligently. And that also helped my Catholicism because martial arts brought order into my life.
Yeah.
It gave me like intellectual order.
Sure.
I took control of my body, custody of my passions.
Yes.
And so with the Catholic faith, mass, confession, praying with my parents, teaching, and the Catholic and karate, that was a perfect storm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To create a young man of faith.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. So when you were playing basketball at lunchtime, what position were you playing usually?
I was, I'm not tall. I'm only 5'10", so I was the guard, but I was quick. I was as fast as all the brothers out there.
That's really cool.
Yeah. They were already in the B team, JV. I'm spiking them. I'm just balling them, and they're saying, "Dude, how come you're not on the team?" I said, I want to go to karate practice, man."
Makes sense. Yeah.
I had more of a passion for the martial arts.
Sure. Yeah. Shout out to Anthony Abate with Avoiding Babylon. He says, Enoch, make sure you tell Jesse he's coming on with us next. Yeah, they have a great show. Those guys are really cool over there. So Jesse, let's move it on to college years. Did you end up going to college?
Yeah, I went to 2 years of college, and I didn't really like it. I got a 2-year degree.
Okay.
And I said, I want to start working. I saw a big sign that said, put a badge in your future, be a Los Angeles deputy sheriff. And I said, oh, that's cool. The gun, the tie uniform. I said, oh, that's cool. And again, I already had that kind of like that warrior mentality because of martial arts. I already had that mentality of, you got to protect people. You got to stand up for what's right. You got to stand up for the weak. And so it was kind of an easy sale for me when I called up and I went to my interview and the recruiter said, yeah, you're a perfect candidate. I didn't have a record because of going to confession every Saturday.
It all started from that. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And so, and then I got into the sheriff's department at the age of 21. Mm-hmm. And I went back to college to finish up a BA back in my mid 30s. I didn't have to, but I just, you know what? Now I'm more mature because when you go to college right out of high school at 18, 19, you're just so wet behind the ears. These professors, these Marxist professors, and they were around back then, they can just manipulate you and brainwash you. And I kind of said, you know what? I don't want to go through 2 more years of this junk. A lot of the stuff that I heard wasn't registering with me. So I just got an AA degree and left, went to work, and I went back to college. 15 years later, I had a lot of experience. I'm a young adult, married now, I have a couple of kids. So I'm like, when I went back to school, I was schooling these professors. I was saying, that's not true. You're wrong. And I'll say, here's why. And so when I went back to school and got my BA and my MA, I was a different person. At 18, you just sit there and you just take in all the propaganda. When you're in your mid 30s, you got some life experience.
That's
you can say, time out, professor, you're wrong. And here's why.
That's right. That's an excellent point. You're more mature, formed, you're married, you have life experience. So you weren't able to be manipulated and formed in such a way. And at that time, your conscience was formed by the church, right?
Oh, yeah. I was all into the faith.
Yeah.
all in, completely immersing myself in apologetics and catechesis.
Sure.
And then also I was a seasoned cop.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew the laws of California, the Constitution, I had life experience.
Yeah.
And so, I was a different, in fact, get this, in one class I was taking, I took as an elective, an Old Testament class for my BA.
Mm.
And it was a Marxist. It's called St. Mary's College in Los Angeles. It's a Marxist New Age college. It's Catholic by name only. So I was taking an Old Testament class here, and I remember I was correcting the professor. She was reminded me of Kamala Harris. She was just a
Cackles.
Yeah. She was a black liberal Catholic professor, female, feminist, hardcore.
Right.
And I kept correcting her, and it was funny. Like about the third weekend of the class, I raised up my hand. I said, and she could see I'm going like this. I'm raising my hand, and she said, "Jesse, if you ask one more question out of turn, I'm going to call the police on you." You know what I said? I said, I am the
police.
She's like, but she would have intimidated an 18 or 19-year-old.
Right.
35. And I'm like, what? Just because I'm correcting you, and I'm going to do it all semester. I'm going to be your worst nightmare. And what you're going to, I said, I read the entire student manual. Okay. Most of these young people won't do it. Guess what? I have the right, duty, and obligation to question you when you're saying things that contradict the Catholic faith. And she's like, oh. And I quoted her the actual section of the student manual. That's the difference when you go to college later versus going out of high school.
Sure. I love it. You kind of pull a Judge Dredd on her. I am the law, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on now to pop culture. Growing up, what kind of TV shows did you like watching in the 70s and the 80s?
I mean, I'm trying to remember memory lane. Dragnet, MASH.
Okay.
Gilligan's Island. I mean, I Love Lucy. I Dream of Jeannie.
I see.
The Green Hornet again. It was just a different era. In fact, most of the stuff that I'm sharing with you, it was very clean stuff. You could sit there with your kids, and you wouldn't have to turn the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a different era.
And you remember, you had to go to Blockbuster to get a film, right? But at that time, it was VHS, right? It wasn't
those big fat VHS tapes. Also, I also grew up listening to black music, R&B, because where I grew up at, my wife grew up in a black neighborhood, Anita. I grew up in a Hispanic neighborhood. We're adjacent to each other.
Sure.
And so the genre back then, when we were young, me and my wife, it was rhythm and blues, black R&B, like Lionel Richie, Earth, Wind, Fire, Al Green, Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Barry
White.
Barry White.
Yeah.
That's the music I grew up in, and I'm telling you, it was most of these black R&B artists. They came out of Protestant churches. They were singing to God, and then they got discovered for their talent, and they started cutting secular music. But even their secular music was clean.
Sure, Teddy Pendergrass, Whitney Houston, Lionel
Richie, that's what I grew up with. Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin. I'm going to tell you, it was a beautiful genre of music.
Sure.
And I'm sad for my black brothers, a lot of my black friends, because a lot of them after my generation, they've been ripped off. The garbage that came after them that they call hip hop is the lyrics. These guys sound like they're banging on trash cans. I mean, the music that I grew up in, it had harmony, melody. But the stuff now, I mean, the next generation, like 50 Cent, people like that, it's a whole, and music has a corrupting influence on the culture.
It does.
It's a powerful way to communicate, and music could either build virtue or it could promote vice.
Correct.
And a lot of the black hip hop music today, it promotes vice.
It does, yeah. Plato did say that, and
Yeah.
it could shape an entire culture. Music can, because it's that powerful. Who would you say is your favorite Catholic rapper right now? Just
You.
out of curiosity. I asked that question to everybody. It's just fun. Thanks, Jesse. Uh, so, what, did you like movies growing up? Like, were you like an action hero, like in the
Yeah.
80s? Okay.
Yeah. Action hero. Anything with action and good versus evil.
Sure.
Or fighting movies, anything with martial arts, anything. Chuck Norris, Jackie Chan, Van Damme, Bruce Lee, or anything with boxing, the Rocky genre.
Yeah, those were great.
Yeah, because I was also, I was also into boxing for a couple of years. So I cut my teeth in both sports, karate and boxing.
Sure. Did you like watching sports at all growing up?
Boxing.
Yeah,
really boxing. And also for entertainment, it was called WWF.
Yeah, that was the best.
Yeah. And it was pretty clean back then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good guy versus bad guy, like what you were saying.
And it was funny. These guys, they had, the $1 Million Man, and they had, Goliath, and
Ultimate Warrior. They had Andre the Giant. Yeah,
the Sting. I mean, but now it's got kind of profane, too profane for me. Yeah.
Sure. No, yeah, it's gotten bad. When the Attitude Era came out in the 90s, it just went downhill after that. Now, looking at your profession, you were, how long were you a cop for? How long did you serve?
20 years.
20 years in Los Angeles. That's not easy.
No. And then but what I just felt in my heart that God was calling me to start preaching the gospel. I mean, I hit the age of 40. I said, man, I love this job. I could be here another 10, 15 years. But I was so in love with Jesus at that point. I've been studying the Catholic faith for years. I was pretty well formed. In fact, I was so well formed, Catholic Answers invited me to work for them because they had heard a lot. They said, dude, man, you really know your stuff. And so Carl Keating invited me to San Diego. I sat down with him, had dinner with him, gave me an application. He goes, here, we'd like you to work for us to be a staff apologist. I went up there twice, another time with Jimmy Aiken, and had dinner with them, and they invited me. They said, we want you to come on staff.
So cool.
I was honored, but I was saying, I don't think God is calling me to do that. And so I just kind of went out on my own. And I said, what people need is somebody to call Catholics to fall in love with Jesus Christ again, to return back to our first love. So I see myself, although I'm well catechized, I got a degree in theology, I know apologetics in my sleep, I see myself more as an evangelist, as somebody who wants to bring the knowledge and person of Jesus Christ into every heart that I encounter.
That's beautiful. Anybody that you named, all the people that you named, Carl Keating, I know, because I lived most of my life in San Diego. That's where I'm from. That's where I grew up. And I remember seeing Carl Keating at St. Anne's FSSP right before I moved to Kentucky. He was going at the 7:15 mass. Him and I talked to him after. Folks like yourself, Carl Keating, Tim Staples, you guys set the foundation for a lot of the folks that are picking up right now, the younger folks like Kennedy Hall, Anthony, and Rob. So yourself, we owe it all to you guys. You guys set the foundation, and we're just picking things up. So thank you for your service, not only to helping folks, but also the faith as well. Let me ask you this question, if you don't mind sharing it. Can you share a story or two about the time where you're in the cop, where you face spiritual warfare in the job?
Sure. Here's one that's probably one of the most prominent ones. This was 1982. I'm working the Los Angeles County Jail. It's the largest jail in the free world. 14,000 inmates, at any given moment in the jail. It's a violent place. It's crazy in there. We got to separate everybody. The whites, the blacks, the Hispanics. We have to separate them. The gangs, particularly, because they'll kill each other. General population, but the jails are segregated. We also had a section in the jail where we kept our serial killers, our mass murderers, our sociopaths, psychopaths. And so the sergeant said, okay, you're going to work rotation around the jail because there's a lot of places to work in there. It's a city within a city. So they rotated me to work at it's called the mentally ill offenders unit, MIU, mentally ill offenders unit. And so I told the sergeant, the lieutenant, I said, so what do I do? You're a high-paid babysitter. These guys are all in a one-man cell. They go to court every day. Feed them 3 times a day. Here's the times you feed them. Give them a magazine or a book. Go down the cart. Give them some reading material once a day. Each of them get 30 minutes outside of their cell to go to the yard and do some exercise. So each of them, because they're all in solitary confinement. They're all in one-man cells because they're dangerous guys. And so I remember I told the lieutenant, can I read the arrest reports of all these guys? If I'm going to be there for 6 months, at least want to know who they are and what they've done and know them by name. So he goes, it's in the office in that cabinet. You can read the police reports, psych reports, and probation reports for all these guys. So I did. It took me about 2 weeks. And I noticed that a bunch of the guys that I had, there's about 200 guys in one-man cells, probably about a little over 100 in their police reports, psych evals, or probation reports. They had said that they had killed their victims for Satan. So I'm young, 21 years old. I'm saying, wow. I'm a low information Catholic. And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm a Catholic. Yeah, there's a person called the devil. Wow. Half of these guys, as I'm reading these reports, said they committed their homicide. They did it in the service of Satan or for their father Satan or to glorify Satan. So I'm saying, wow, there's actually Satanists in the world. I'm 61 right now. So this was 40 years ago.
Sure.
I'm like, what? I said, so now I'm intrigued. I went to mass on a Sunday, 12 noon mass, heard the second reading. The Bible word says, St. Paul says, nobody can say Jesus is Lord except by the power of the Holy Spirit. Right. I'm like laughing. I'm like, 21-year-old liberal. I'm like, yeah, right. The Bible is wrong. Anybody can say Jesus is Lord. So I worked from 4 to midnight, got home, got my uniform, drove to work. Went into, roll call, walked into the jail with all the other officers, went to the mentally ill offenders unit. And then I said, I got to feed these guys lunchtime in about 30 minutes. I said, I'm going to ask dinner in about 30 minutes. I'm going to ask these guys, a couple of these Satanists, if they can say Jesus is Lord, because I know the Bible's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. The Bible's just absolutely wrong when it says that. So as I'm going down the walkway, and we're opening up the windows to the cells or the doors to the cells. You got bars, you got a steel door, you open it up. Yeah. 3 officers there, and we're giving them their meals, slipping them underneath the cells about 1.5 inches. You could put the tray and the food in there. And so I said, well, I'm going to ask some of these guys. So I said, hey, cell number 3, we're going to feed Richard Ramirez next. Richard Ramirez is a night stalker. He was a serial killer that killed about 30 women in Los Angeles, prostitutes. And we convicted him of 16, 14 we never convicted him of. And wow. And he had all kinds of satanic tattoos on his body, on his hands. And so I asked him, I said, hey, Ramirez, how'd you like to, I told him, how'd you like me to go get you some food from the officers' dining room? Because all the inmates do that. We had a special mess hall for the officers, and they fed us like royalty. They fed us like kings. There was a Thanksgiving meal every day. And so he looked at me, and he said, what do I have to do? I said, all you got to do is say Jesus is Lord, and I'll go down to the officers' dining room and order up whatever you want, and I'll bring it to you. He goes, is that all I got to do? I said, yeah, that's all you got to do. Just humor me. Richard Ramirez says, all right. He grabbed a hold of the bars. He goes, now he's trying to talk, and I was talking to him. I talked to him normal every day. All of a sudden, he's unable to talk. It's like if his mouth has glue or cement, or like when you break somebody's jaw, their jaw's wired shut.
Yeah.
He can't open his mouth, and he's trying to say Jesus is Lord because he wants a good meal from the officer's dining room, and he's turning red. He's trying to say it. I see him turning red. I see his eyes get black, real black, as he's trying to say Jesus is Lord. And then he starts holding his throat like something's choking him. Now the other officers are saying, "Hey, Romero, man, what's going on here? He's choking." And he's foam is coming out of his mouth, saliva's coming. Something's choking him, and he takes his hands and he's pulling like if somebody's got him in an arm bar. He collapses to one knee, and I'm looking at him like I felt a cold chill go down my back.
Sure.
I felt a presence of evil in that entire cell block now. The two guys that were with me, the two other rookies, I said, "Hey, Romero, close the door, man. Let's move on. That's freaky. Don't do that again." So we closed the steel door, and I'm like, man, that was weird. We kept on feeding the inmates. I think the next inmate, he was a Hell's Angel hitman, but he was a Satanist. So I asked him, I said, "Hey, can you say Jesus is Lord?" He goes, "Yes, I'll give you another sandwich." He goes, "All right, officer, Jesus is Lord." Cool. I went to the next jail cell. There was a guy from East LA, Mariana Maravilla gang member, killed somebody at a drive-by shooting, shot up a party. I asked him to say Jesus is Lord. No problem. He said it. Next cell, another Satanist. This guy had killed 6 people and eaten them in Riverside. He cannibalized. So I asked, he was a Satanist. I asked him to say Jesus Lord. The same thing that I described to you that happened to Richard Ramirez 5 cells before happened to this guy. This Satanist could not say the name Jesus. And so as we're going down and feeding people, I'm noticing that if you're just a killer, even a sociopath and a psychopath, but not a satanic psychopath, you just kill somebody, heat a passion, jealousy, whatever, you're a gang member, you're a hitman, they were able to say Jesus is Lord. The only people, because I did this to about 10 inmates, the only ones that weren't able to say Jesus is Lord are the satanic killers, which at the age of 21, I said, man, the Bible was true. What else does the Bible write about? It was at that moment at 21 where I'm starting saying, you know what? Maybe I should start reading this book. If the Bible's right about that, what else is the Bible correct about? That to me was a huge pie in the face.
What a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. That's crazy. That came out of me. So he needed Father Ripperger to come in and to take care of his So let me ask you this question. You started to read the scriptures. Did you ever have a temptation to leave the faith at one point?
Yeah, very early on as a rookie cop, because again, there's 10,000 cops and everybody's got an opinion. And since I was a low information Catholic, there was a lot of Protestant cops, a lot of veterans, that I respected, the guys that had been in shootings and they'd been working the streets for 20 years and they had all these war stories. And a lot of these guys, some of these guys were Protestant Christians. I didn't know what a Protestant was. And they would start, "Hey, Romero, here's a pamphlet, hey, it was cassette tapes back then. Here's a cassette tape of mine." So a lot of these Protestant cops would, I guess they saw that I had some proclivities towards Christ, obviously towards God. So they would give me information. And I remember there was another rookie cop. He started inviting me to his non-denominational church. And I went a few times. And I remember I came back home. I told my wife, it was a feel-good church. Then I told my wife, "Hey, Anita, maybe we should, we go to mass, but then go to my buddy's church after." She goes, "I'm not going to go to Protestant church." I said, what do you mean Protestant? Now, my wife already kind of knew the language. She goes, "No. My family's from Texas. Half of them are Protestants, half of them are Catholics. And the Protestants are always bashing us." She goes, "No, honey, I married a Catholic man. I'm not stepping into a Protestant church. I've already done that all my life. She goes, "My dad was a Seventh-day Adventist. My mom was Catholic. So on Saturday, we go to the Seventh-day Adventist church where they talk about Catholics. And Sunday, we go to mass." She says, and so when I was 18, it was a no-brainer for me to choose which religion I was going to choose. The religion that promoted the love of God and forgiveness and peace. And that was the Catholic Church. So my wife, since she'd been in Seventh-day Adventist churches on Saturdays all her life and Catholic mass, she said, "These guys preach hate. You don't know, honey, I do. I've been there all my life. And my family members that are Protestants, their gospel is the gospel of Catholics are going to hell."
Right.
So as a result of that, I started searching, and that's when I ran across this magazine called, it was actually a newsletter. Carl Keating started Catholic Answers, and there was a newsletter. It was not even a magazine yet. It was called Catholic Answers Newsletter. My pastor, I was asking him a lot of questions, my parish priest, and he said, you know what? You need to immerse yourself in apologetics. There's a new organization that's starting. They're called Catholic Answers. They have a newsletter here. They have cassette tapes. Here's their magazine to order. I'm going to send you to a seminar. You have a lot of good questions, and they're going to be able to answer the questions that you have. I can't answer them to your liking. And so this pastor, my parish priest, sent me back in 1989. I still have the manual. It was put out by Carl Keating and Pat Madrid. They're both young guys. Pat was a year older than me. I was 25. Pat was 26 or 27. And Scott Hahn was 30 years old. He just converted to the church. And so I went to the seminar called Go Forth and Teach. And it's at that point, I started getting their newsletter, started ordering cassette tapes. They turned me on to another apostolate called St. Joseph's Communications. I started ordering cassette tapes from them, Bishop Fulton Sheen tapes, and I just started forming myself. And probably within about 6 months to a year, I said, man, the Catholic Church is the one true church started by Jesus Christ. Religion, I am in. And I said, and I'm gonna serve the Catholic Church just like I fight in the ring viciously for the rest of my life.
Praise be to God. We got you on our team. We need that. Take a quick break. We're going to do the this or that, and then we'll come back. We'll do 2 more topics, and then we'll end it. So you just have to answer very quickly what you prefer. So this or that, vacation or staycation?
Staycation. I travel too much.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Night or morning?
Morning.
Morning. Rich and famous or rich and unknown?
Rich and unknown.
Passenger or driver?
Driver.
Art museum or history museum?
History museum.
Car or motorcycle?
Car.
Train or airplane?
Airplane.
Would you rather owe money or owe a favor?
Owe a favor.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Beautiful.
I'm a martial artist. Tea.
Makes sense. Be embarrassed or be afraid?
Be embarrassed.
City or countryside?
Countryside. I'm a city boy, but I'm done with it.
I hear you. Smartphone or tablet?
Smartphone.
Wine or beer?
Beer.
Favorite beer?
Anything light. Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light, Corona Light. Yeah.
Got it. Would you rather, cooking or being cooked for?
Being cooked for.
Got it. Go to a play or a stand-up show?
Stand-up show.
Roommate or live alone?
Live alone. I guess that, like, if I was widowed,
Right, yeah. Would you rather attend a party or host a party?
Host a party.
Lose sleep or skip a meal?
Skip a meal.
Nice. Sneakers or dress shoes?
Sneakers.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Let's see here. Red wine or white wine?
Red wine.
Okay. And then dog or cat?
Dog.
Last one. Your preference. TLM or Novus Ordo?
TLM.
Beautiful. Okay. Thanks for playing that game. It's we got to get to know you a little bit more through that exercise. Now I have 2 more topics to talk about, and then we'll just we'll end it here. Number one is Eros. We talk about, if you don't mind sharing, where you met your beautiful wife.
I met my wife after high school. We both of us were going to junior college.
Cool.
I knew her friend. I knew her cousin. And so I would always say, "Hey, man, when are you going to introduce me to your cousin Anita?" "I'm not going to introduce you to her. You're a dirtbag." I said, "Dude, look who's talking, man. I'm hanging out with you. You're a dirtbag too." So I just we lived in adjacent suburbs, and so we would cruise in the same sections. A lot of the parties, a lot of the concerts. I ended up just saying, "I'm going to just go introduce myself. I'm not shy. I'm a martial artist." So I think I was just driving down in my nice lowrider car. Oh, my, beautiful.
Yeah.
And she was walking.
What year was it?
I had a 1975 Chevy Caprice Classic.
Nice.
Remember those long cars?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she's walking. She worked at Farmers Insurance. She's walking out to lunch, and I timed it perfectly. I'm driving down Sepulveda, and I saw her, and I made a U-turn and struck a conversation. I said, "Hey, I'm Abel's one of his best friends." "Oh yeah, I've seen you hanging out with my cousin." So we just struck a conversation, and that's how we got to know each other.
Wow. So just that ability to be confident and
spontaneous.
Yeah. I always said, what is it? Who said this? I think it was Sean Connery, one of the movies. He said, the key to a woman's heart is an unexpected gift at an unexpected time, right? Spontaneity. It's really true.
That's exactly what happened. Yep.
Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing, can you share your proposal story?
Yeah. I think we're both 19 at the time.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
19 to what? We're 19. We got married at 22. I mean, I pretty much knew. I'm not that, like they say, love at first sight. I just kind of knew. Obviously, I was physically attracted to her, and she was probably physically attracted to me too, obviously. But then I'm starting to ask questions. You know, I remember our first date. Our first date was actually, I said, "Oh, by the way, I go to like 2 weeks after talking to her, exchanging numbers and calling her up on the phone. There's no cell number, so you've got to call up the house phone." And then their dad has to give her permission to speak. So yeah, it was a lot different from the way it is now. You can't even email or text people. You just, you got to call the landline, and dad picks it up, or mom, "Who are you?" And so I remember one of the first things I said, I just had that sense that maybe she's the one. So I asked her, I said, by the way, I go to mass on Sundays. I want to see if she thought I was a nerd, and she goes, "What?" I said, "I'm just wondering." We'd been talking for like 2 weeks. I said, "I'd like to pick you up for mess. Are you okay with it? We could go eat some breakfast after." She said, "I'd love to." And then, so that was our first date, so to speak.
Sure.
We went to mass on Sunday, and she, I remember she was talking. She says, "You're the first guy that I know that goes to church, that goes to mass on Sunday." And at that point, it was just, yeah. Within 2 years, we were married. We got married.
Wow.
We got married in 1983. San Fernando Mission, one of the 121 missions in California, the beautiful missions by Father Junipero Serra.
Yeah.
Beautiful old Spanish church. Got married in 1983, and we're still married today, almost 40 years later. And I could just tell you this: as you get older, your love just purifies. It just evolves. It's just a deeper, more mature love. We've got 3 young adults. All 3 young adults, thanks be to God, are all married in the Catholic Church. All 3 young adults. One has 3 kids. One has 2 kids. One has that had their newborn. Yeah. So now I'm a grandpa 6 times.
Beautiful.
And their spouses are all in as well. They practice the Catholic faith as well. So that's the most important thing that I could have left for my kids, is to make sure that Jesus Christ is the center of their life, that the Eucharist is the center of their week, and that they know that the importance of bringing Christ into your marriage. And they all 3 of them understand that and are living it out today.
Long live the patriarchy, my friend.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, you're right. Because the grace of God, it flows through patriarchy.
Yes, sir.
Right in the Bible.
Yeah, that's it. What you just said about the fact that the older you get within the marriage, the intensifies, and the beautiness of it. It reminded me of Father Dorsa, a fraternity priest, one time said, he gave a homily. I'll never forget this. He was talking about the wedding at Cana, and he says that the world sees marriage at its sweetness in the honeymoon stage, the beginning. That's where the wine tastes good. He said, but in the sacramental marriage, when God just transforms it into this sanctifying, beautiful union, he says the wine at the end was sweeter, was better, and the older you get within the marriage, the better it gets in the sacramental marriage. That was a beautiful connection of the wedding at Cana. I thought it just reminded me of that. Food, really quickly, and then we'll move on to the last topic. Food. Give me your death row meal. If there's one meal last meal on earth that you would have, what would it be?
Taquitos con guacamole,
Okay.
macaroni salad, and pinto beans with a lot of cheese on top. That's my send-off meal.
I love it. I love it. All right. So so now we're gonna do faith really quickly. I'm gonna ask you just a few questions. Treasure Island. You're stuck in an island. You can only take 3 Catholic books with you. What do you got?
The Holy Bible, obviously,
Of course.
the Imitation of Christ,
Sure.
and probably the Saint Francis de Sales Introduction to the Devout Life.
Nice. You got everything covered at that point, right? Yeah. All right. Next question. If you had to pick one clergy right now that you know, I mean, God forbid this doesn't happen anytime soon, that you're on your deathbed and you want this one person to give you your last rites, who would it be?
Father Chad Ripperger.
Nice. Yeah, me too. He's such a cool guy. Next question. If you can take one church father or one saint in the past, any of the saints in the past that you can have dinner with for 2 hours, who would it be?
Saint Jerome, because he had he was the scripture scholar of the Catholic Church, right. And I'm a Bible junkie. And number 2, he also had anger problems, and I've had anger problems in my life as well.
All right, last question to end the show. It's 2025. The Holy Father has passed. White smoke comes down. They say, Jesse, we like your brain. We like your look. You are the new Pope of the Church. Okay. Number 1, what is your Pope name, your pontificate name? And number 2, what would you do to bring the church back to its great glory?
Okay, I'm going to call myself Peter II.
Nice.
Peter II. And what I would do to bring the church back to restore its glory, I would, with a motu proprio or even an ex cathedra statement, I would say the Latin Mass is here, and the Latin Mass sacraments are here ex cathedra.
Nice.
With my papal ring. And I would say, if the Novus Ordo Mass can also stay, but it must be celebrated according to the documents of Vatican II, which means Novus Ordo Mass must be celebrated ad orientem. I want all Novus Ordo parishes to have an altar rail. I want all Novus Ordo parishes to have altar boys. I want all Novus Ordo parishes to give people communion in the tongue on their. Oh yeah, it would not look much different for the Latin Mass if I was the Pope. I would make sure that both the ordinary rite and the extraordinary rite are so similar that you can go to either one and you wouldn't feel there's much of a difference. And I would do that ex cathedra with my papal ring.
That is beautiful. And I think, go ahead.
I'll tell you what, if we don't get the Mass right, the liturgy is the heart of the church. Yeah. If we're still having these liturgical wars and this liturgical nonsense, the church's power flows from the liturgy. And grace is being cut off with clown masses, with bozo masses, with mil máscaras masses, you know? Have to get it right.
I 100% agree with you there. Yeah, I prefer the TLM over the Novus Ordo, but when it's done right, it is a beautiful rite as well. Yeah. Send us off with the last message. What would you say to everybody listening, or will be listening today or tomorrow? Finish Holy Week strong. What is your advice?
Here's what I would say. Make sure you go to confession this Lent season. If you haven't done so, do so this week. You want to make sure that Holy Week, the week that changed the world, the week of all weeks, make sure you're in a state of sanctifying grace. Make sure as part of your routine, you're praying the daily rosary. Make sure also as part of your routine, as part of your ward bag, your toolbox, make your lunch pail, make sure that you read Holy Scripture every day. Get the Word of God into you every day. You can read the Mass readings from the old calendar or the new calendar. Read the Mass readings every day. And also, become holy or die trying. Remember that. Become holy or die trying.
That might be my new album title. I like it. Yeah, Jesse, I appreciate you coming on, giving us your time. This was such an outstanding interview. I think everybody had a great time. I learned so much from you, and I'm just so inspired to finish Holy Work strong. Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime, brother. I'm going to have you on as well.
Absolutely. Anytime. Anything for you guys. God bless you. And we'll see everybody later on. Have a great Holy Week. And the next time we see each other, Christ is risen.
Amen. Thanks, brother.
Absolutely.